Welcome to the Patience and Progress audio experience with your host, Jake Butler. In life, it's important to have patience, but also make progress. This episode is brought to you by Butler Capital, Rich Kid Camp Online, and Money University. Put your hands together for a former school teacher turned full-time real estate investor, Jake Butler.
Patience and Progress family, what is going on? Hope that you had a good week. Excited to have this episode and to come online and to see what everyone is up to. Hope everyone had an exciting week. Certainly was exciting for me. Actually got 2 commercial properties that I'm currently negotiating. Should have one at least under contract very shortly. One is a 57 unit, one is a 172 unit. One is in New York and actually one is in Florida, which I'm excited about. This week, we will be talking about how to use virtual assistants to grow your real estate business, really any business that you have, or especially your real estate business. How do you use virtual assistants to grow your real estate business? When I first started out, I would hire people locally, which is great, which is fine. But for anyone to get good quality work, you need $15 to $20 an hour to pay someone. And then I started looking into virtual assistants. At first, I really didn't think, I said, well, how am I going to, I don't really speak all these types of languages to get this, not free labor, but very low cost labor. But add into it, you can actually get in an hour. All right, $3 to $5 an hour, which is, a pretty good enough price. My concern was the language barrier, but in the Philippines, they speak English. Actually, I'm sure most of you have credit cards. If you ever call your customer service number for your credit card, you normally get, someone in another country. And most likely, sometimes it's India, sometimes Colombia, but most likely the majority of U.S. call centers are out of the Philippines. And that's because in the Philippines, they speak English. Actually, one of my virtual assistants that I pay $5 an hour for, she's been with me for 13 years. She messaged me the other day. She's like, Mr. Butler, do you realize I've been your virtual assistant for 13 years? So I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that. But once you find a good one, you want to try to hold on to it. You can get virtual assistants for almost any category. And that's the important thing. You can get them to, work for you full time, work for you part time. You can get design if you need brochures, if you need someone just to do some web initial research work, which is where a lot of my virtual assistants come in at, because a lot of the data that I use to find properties, I believe in getting it directly from the courthouse, because when you subscribe to third party vendors, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're getting it from the courthouse as well, organizing it and then selling it. So, and then after a while, it becomes a little bit outdated. So, if you can go to the courthouse in the county where you're researching property or where you look to buy, let's say if you're looking to buy probate or foreclosures or divorce sale, whatever the case may be, if that data is available at the courthouse, then you want to try to go there and get it. I used to go there physically, but now it takes a lot of time to organize that data by going there physically, and it's simply online. So sometimes in some counties, you have to pay an access fee to access certain levels of data. Some of it is free and some of it you have to pay for. But by the time you spend gas going to the courthouse and parking, oh, that's another fee. You can hire a virtual assistant. So when you go to hire a virtual assistant, first you have to determine what area you need assistance in. Okay. So you have to be very, very specific and know what you need a virtual assistant for and what do you want them to do. So, for example, I have one virtual assistant strictly skip tracing data on individuals that own apartment complex 50 units or more, because those owners, once you get the ownership group, then you got to research, who is the actual person that owns the owner of the ownership group. So that's one particular person that does skip tracing for me. Another person traces data of individuals that have money left over in the court from tax deed foreclosures and tax certificate foreclosures. So what happens is, if a property gets foreclosed on, let's say they owed the bank $70,000. Let's say the property sells at the auction for 100,000. Well, that 30,000, 100,000 minus the 70,000 they owed the bank, that 30,000 that's left over goes to the court, and that money is supposed to go to the prior homeowner, the homeowner that got foreclosed on. But a lot of times, the person that got foreclosed on doesn't know that. I was talking to someone today, and they needed some help with a foreclosure situation. And the homeowner was so distraught that when that property goes to auction, they have no clue that it's money left over. And the court notifies them, but they can't stay in the property after it's been foreclosed on unless the person that buys it allows them to stay there. So 95% of the time they move. And what person that gets foreclosed on calls the court and gives them their new mailing address? they most of the time they don't do that. So because they don't call the court or the property appraiser and give a new mailing address, then the court sends the same letter that says, hey, you have $30,000 here that we're holding at the court. Fill out these papers and we'll give it to you. They don't get notified of that. So there is over a $7 billion business in what's called foreclosure and tax deed surplus. It's crazy, 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 crazy. I was in real estate for 3-4 years before I even realized that's a whole business within itself. I've actually gotten, I'll say I've done about 20 to 30 deals where I've actually gotten money from the court. And then what was the split? The split is about 30-70. So we keep 30% and the previous homeowner keeps 70%. And this is found money. This is found money that they didn't even know existed. Okay. Maybe next month's podcast, we'll do a special on it. If you want to know more about it, just send me a message during the week or look it up on YouTube, Tax Deed Surplus. I think I did a free webinar on it. Yeah, I did do that. There's a free webinar on it at realestatejb.com. Just click on tax deed and tax certificates. Because if you're in tax deeds or tax certificates, you definitely want to know and understand the process, because it's about 7 different ways that you can make money in that area. Okay, so back to virtual assistants. So you want to know what you need a virtual assistant for and what you want them to do. Okay. And after you determine that, you want to go to one of 3 websites, which are the most popular. So the most popular one is upwork.com, upwork.com, upwork.com. That's one of the ones that I use. Another one is called freelancer.com, freelancer, freelancer.com. If you happen not to have a pen to write these down, you can always come back in about, I would say 18 to 24 hours and listen to the replay. There's another one, Fiverr, fiverr.com. You can go there as well. And if you want to check out a couple more, you can simply Google freelancers, and you can freelancers or virtual assistants, and you can look at a couple other websites. But those are the kind of the 3 most popular ones. The thing I like about it is you can hire people at a fixed price to do a project for you, or you can hire them hourly. So you can hire them both ways. And then also on Upwork, it takes a screenshot of their computer every 10 minutes. So no one can go on, log on their computer, start your project, go to the mall, go shopping, come back, and you still pay, for the hours where they're now working on your project. So that's the one I kind of like the most, is Upwork. So it takes a screenshot every 10 minutes. So you can kind of see what they're working on and, how long they've been doing it. One thing that you want to do that I spent a lot of money on, that you want to make sure you have done. If you write down the instructions that you want the virtual assistant to do and then send it to them. That's one good way to start. But if you're like me and you have virtual assistants that have to go, they call it web scrapping, where you have to get data from different websites, organize it, then put it into Excel, then send it to me, then you want to do it yourself, but record the video screen of what you're doing. Okay. So you don't have to record it with an iPhone. If you have it, you can go to screenomatic.com or you can go to, I think they call it screenpow.com, and it records your screen and then saves it as a video file, and you send that to the virtual assistant. Okay, so then they know exactly what to do. They know what websites to go to. Sometimes you go to a website, you don't know what to click on, you're not sure where to go, a different menu comes up. So by doing that, the virtual assistant saves a lot of time, or you save a lot of time because now you know they're coming back with the correct information. Okay. And they save time. They don't spend a lot of time emailing you back and forth. Where do I go? What do I click on? So you want to record, you want to do a screenshot, not a screenshot, but a screen video of what it is that you need if you have them going to different websites to obtain your data. Okay. Other than that, you can just simply write down the instructions of what you need before you have them start working. Now, you can do a couple different things, and this part is important. So, let's say you enter your information, the type of job that you want, the price range you're willing to pay, and people start applying. Now, you can do it two different ways. You can put your job out there, and anybody that wants, they can apply. And then you can start reviewing those applicants. Same way if you were looking to hire someone, to come work at your office, you start looking at applications and then determining who you're going to interview. Same thing. So people will submit their proposals, submit their backgrounds, and you can kind of see who you like and who you want to disregard. Or there's another way you can look at who fits that category, because people set up profiles of what type of work they do. And you can look at those profiles and you can invite them to come and participate, or invite them to, apply for the position that you have, put out there, or the project that you've put out there. So you can do it one of two ways. You can put your project out there and have it open to anyone, which you get a lot of, applicants, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad because you got to go through those applicants. Or you can go through and look at individuals, read their qualifications, and by clicking a button, you send them an invite to apply for the job that you've set out there. So you want to set the parameters, you want to set a budget, how much you want to spend on a virtual assistant. Do you prefer to pay by project or do you prefer to pay hourly? And also, how long do you need them? Some people need them for a month, 2 months, a week, or sometimes people want to have it ongoing. So you can choose and select how long you want to have or potentially have that virtual assistance for. You don't have to use someone in another country, but there are a lot of countries that people do speak English, even if it's a foreign country where most individuals don't speak English. When they apply to be a virtual assistant, they've already taken a English proficiency exam or English proficiency test. So on some of the virtual assistant websites, you can see what was their score. Okay. So, don't be alarmed where, okay, that person might not speak English, or it may not, be as conducive where you can communicate efficiently. Obviously, it's countries where people speak English, but also if you don't like that country or the accent that some individuals may have, you can look for someone in a totally different country and just look at their English proficiency score. Okay, so that kind of gives you a way to make sure you're dealing, or get a pot that you have applicants in of individuals that speak the language and the level that you need. The first problem when I first started out is, okay, you get someone that has, you're not paying a whole lot of money versus, US money compared to a foreign country. But, you want to make sure you get a quality person. And that's the thing. What will you have them doing? If you have someone doing sales calls for you, how does their English accent sound? Is there an accent? If there is an accent, how foreign does it sound? Because in the US, a lot of people, when you have a virtual assistant call, depending on their accent, someone automatically thinks that your business might be running a scam. Okay. Because the accent is so strong from someone that might be overseas from, a foreign country. So what I did was I would type up maybe a 3 to 5 sentence script, and then I would send it to them and have them send me a voice recording of them reading it or saying it. And it would just be something that I would have them say on opening remark to someone, a prospective client that they would be calling, or let's just say that, someone had money left over in the court. Hi, my name is XYZ. We've identified some money that you have left over in the court. Wanted to see if you were interested in using our business or our company to claim this money for you. So just type that up, send that to a virtual assistant, have them read it and send it back to me. And if it doesn't sound the way I would want them to sound, friendly, opening, warming, um, not to discriminate against men, but women have it's statistically known that women are more have more, I would say, not only confidence, but what's the right word that I'm looking for? Believability when making a cold call. So individuals that receive a call from a lady have more trust immediately. So kind of like in the tax deed business, a lot of people think it's a scam that you found this money that they didn't know about, right? A lot of people that we contact think it's a scam. When I switched from having males calling to having females calling, not only did my profits increase, but the believability and trust with the client was a lot more immediate than it was before, just because that's just the way that business is. So you want to have them send you a voice recording of whatever it is that you want them to say, not the entire script, but just kind of the opening, and that's how you want to narrow it down. If you have them doing any type of customer service or any type of cold calling, or if they're communicating with your customer or client initially, or an inbound call or outbound call, you want to know that that's sufficient. You've been listening to another exciting episode of Patience and Progress Investing with Jake Butler. If anything that I've mentioned in the episode resonates with you, you may want to check out my online learning platform, moneyuniversityonline.com, where you'll gain significant knowledge on how to do real estate deals with little to no money down and how to go to the next level using other people's money. That's what everyone wants to do. And if you're looking for a mentor, check out onedealonetime.com. That's the number one, onedealonetime.com, where many of my students have been able to quit their job just over 6 to 8 months of being involved in our mentoring program in residential real estate, commercial real estate, or tax deeds and tax certificates. Now, back to another exciting episode. Another thing is you want to use and set up a system where each call is recorded. Okay. So they have a couple different ones. We use Ring Central. But you want to have the call recorded because, one, you want to be able to, coach the customer has a problem or a question. Most importantly, you want to be able to make sure that question gets, proficiently answered. And also, if there's a problem that comes up, because people are going to have some of the same questions over and over, and you want to make sure that your virtual assistant can answer those questions. So you want to make sure that those get addressed. So by having the conversations recorded, then automatically recorded, that's another good thing. So you can go in and access it at any time. Are there any questions so far from anyone? I don't want to go too fast, but I do want you all to get this information because it can really help for you to, take your real estate to the next level, especially individuals that work every day. Then you have to come home on the weekend. You got to find time to do this real estate stuff so you can try to quit your job. Where if you have a virtual assistant putting particular components together for you, and then the heavy lifting part, and then you have to do another smaller part when you have time. If your heavy lifting is already done, and you'll progress a lot faster in real estate and reaching whatever goal you have. So if you have a question before I continue, just raise your hand and I'll be happy to answer it for you, or you can put it into the chat portion, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. So one person says, where do you find the best virtual assistants and how much should you pay? Well, I will tell you this. In Upwork, it gives you a range, minimum to maximum, as to what, once you start putting in your project, and you're finished and you know what type of virtual assistant you're looking for, it tells you the price range that you can find a quality person, from paying the minimum to paying the maximum. It kind of highlights and puts in a graph as to how much you would expect to pay. So that's why I say set up a budget as to how much you plan to spend on that particular person, and then you can hire someone within that budget. Don't always go for the lowest person. Go by what their background and experience is, and make sure you interview them. If it's a really quick project, really easy, go to this website, organize this data, put it into Excel spreadsheet, and send it to me. They don't need to talk to anyone. I would go for the person that's offering the lowest amount hourly, which is normally $350. I've seen some at $250 that can do that. And then what you want to do is just make sure you have that information set up, where they can go to those websites or get whatever information you have. If you have to send something that's already in an Excel file or Word file that they need to reformat or whatever the case may be, have that ready. Write up the instructions so they can do that proficiently and effectively. So that's what I recommend on that component. Another person asked, which countries are best for a virtual assistant? Well, obviously you want someone that speaks English. Sometimes they have, it depends on your product or your service. But if you have, like we recently started pursuing some different Spanish areas, it's good if you can hire someone that speaks two languages. That's always great, because then when you go to expand your business, or if someone has a problem or a question and you may be primarily in the US, or you may not speak their native language, then if your virtual assistant can do that, let's say they do speak Spanish, even though primarily your clients are English speaking, then that's just another client that they might be able to bring in, or it's another real estate deal you might be able to negotiate through, because you have a virtual assistant that happens to speak another language. Let's say you were in real estate, you found someone that speaks Spanish, a friend told you about it, the person only speaks Spanish, they're in foreclosure, they need help, or they have a tax deed problem or any type of real estate problem. You know how to fix it, but you don't speak the language because you had a virtual assistant that maybe was bilingual. Then you could do it. Also, I will tell you this. When I first started, I came into this exact problem and I went to one or two websites and actually hired a translator and did a three-way call so I could get that property under contract. So, and it's crazy because I wasn't even thinking along those lines. And I said, you know what? This is a deal. Somebody else is going to get it if I don't do anything about it. And I just happened to think of hiring a translator, paying, I forget what I had to pay him, but did a three-way call and got the property under contract and made money on the transaction. So you want to know just how to do it, how to access it. You don't have to use it. You don't have to hire one, but you just want to know, that it's available and it's there. You hear about people using virtual assistants all the time, but how do they work? Where do you go? How do you hire them? Are you stuck into a contract? Which you can cancel at any time. So it's really good to use these websites. Which websites you use is, one of the most important things and one of the most important challenges. Another person asked, have I ever gotten to a problem with a virtual assistant or had any issues? That is a great question. That is a great question. Let me think about that. One time I think I did. I think I did one time when I had a problem with, yeah, that was the first problem when I first started, where they were charging me hourly and I knew that it didn't require that amount of time to complete the transaction. So when I got the bill, when my credit card got charged, I asked them about it and then they said, oh, XYZ, blah, 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 which I knew was an excuse. So then on all of the different websites I gave you, there's normally a dispute button where you can put in a dispute. And then you explain what happened, XYZ. And then what they'll do is they'll contact the other party, and they'll either stop the payments to them or they'll reimburse you, or you work out some type of agreement where you end up paying less, or if they already paid them, then they can refund you a portion, or you could just not hire that person anymore. So there is a dispute component if you happen to run into a problem. But I would say in the last 10 years, I've only had about one problem. And that's because I didn't have the advice of someone giving me what I'm giving to you now, which I thought this episode would be, really important. Wrapping it up, I'm trying to think what else in the virtual assistant space. The most important thing is to know what you need a virtual assistant for. And if you're going to have a virtual assistant in real estate, what are you going to have them do? You want to try to identify tasks that take a lot of time before getting into the nitty gritty part of your business. So, for example, if you're in, I'll go through the three areas where I have the majority of knowledge. So tax deed, tax certificates, residential, and commercial. Um, Tax deeds, tax certificates. You need data, right? So tax certificates, each county has an auction once a year. There are properties that are coming up for that auction. What are those properties? What are they worth? What is the amount of taxes owed on those properties? All that data, each county puts out that data prior to the auction. So that data has to be downloaded, analyzed as far as based on primarily one, how much money do you plan to spend? And then two, you have to do some research on those properties. So that research can be done by a virtual assistant. So now you can just focus on which properties you're going to buy. On the tax deed side, I don't know if you listened to the first episode, but that information, I gave the website, that information for Miami, miamidade.realforeclose.com has all the foreclosure data for the county, and for the majority of the 56 counties in Florida. That each foreclosure property, that information can be downloaded, but it doesn't give you the owner's name of the property, it just gives you the address and the folio number. So the owner has to be looked up. And then if you're going to contact them in whichever format, that information has to be looked up. So you can for that. Central side, depending on where you're going to focus. Are you focusing on probate? Are you focusing on distressed properties? Are you focusing on properties that have violations? That data can be organized and set up. And then you just have to work on contacting the owners to see if you can have a virtual assistant to contact them. So you might have one virtual assistant that gets the data and another virtual assistant that does the calling. So now your time is only spent determining which deal you're going to attempt to get under contract. So that's two. If you were a single person working on that business, let's just say full time, you might end up having two virtual assistants. One that gets the data, and then the other one does your calling. Because if you had one that gets the data and calls, that's fine. You can certainly do that, but it depends on the volume that you're attempting to create. So those two things you want to take a look at and run together. And the same thing in commercial, whichever area you're going to focus on. Like right now, because we're focusing on larger apartment complexes, I have one virtual assistant that organizes the data, and I have another virtual assistant. Actually, she organizes the data and skip traces, and then I take that data, give it to another virtual assistant, who then calls the owner and then see if they would like to sell. They come back, they say yes. Then I call the owner, get the information that I need, see if they really want to sell, because some people just say that. See if they're a real seller, if the project is a real deal. And then I take a look at it. So imagine if I was trying to do all those things: download the information, research who the ownership group is, then looking up who owns it, getting the phone number and address and email, and then giving them a call. That would take a tremendous amount of time versus only doing that maybe 2 to 3 times, recording the process, sending that to a virtual assistant an hour for. By the way, you can set the amount of hours they work per week. So you can really set up a very strategic and tight budget so you aren't spending, a lot of money. And then once you get back this data, this is what you use to go and make money for whatever sector you're working on. Okay. I'm just speaking in relation to real estate because that's where I have the knowledge of as far as me personally using virtual assistants. But if you have another business, you can look at, you may have one person that's doing some mundane things that someone can do it at a much lower price than what you're paying them to do it for. And if that person doesn't have to communicate with a lot of people, they're just collecting data, you can save a considerable amount of money. On one project, I was paying a lady $20 an hour, 40 hours a week. That's about $800 a week. On a virtual assistant, I could have paid them for 3 months to do the same thing. So it's just a business decision, but just make sure you hire the right person. Two other things before we close out today. I have here. We covered the majority of what I wanted to tell you. Set up a fixed do. So just be sure to do that. You'll save a lot of time. You'll save a lot of money. So to summarize what we talked about today, you have the 3 websites, Upwork.com, Freelancer.com, also Fiverr. Those are the top 3. So once you locate the website that you want to use, you want to determine what you want the virtual assistant to do, whether it's design, whether it's cold calling, whether it's telemarketing, whether it's web scrapping, which is the same thing as, researching stuff on different websites, organizing it into Excel. I remember one time I had a problem. I could not figure out how to get Excel to do what I needed it to do. I found a virtual assistant that was an expert in Excel and just had them, I paid them like fix the spreadsheet that I had, and now I was off and running and I had the information organized in the format that I needed. So once you find out and locate one that you want them to do, put in your project, narrow it down to who you want to use, set up an example and write down your instructions of what you want them to do. So you aren't going back and forth. Well, what do you want me to do here? What do you want me to do there? I actually set up a flow chart. This is the process. These are the websites I need you to go to. Or if they're calling, this is the script. This is what I want you to say. If you have them calling, make sure that the calls are recorded. There's several different websites you can use. So if you use someone overseas, they can call the US by using a particular app, and then those calls are recorded. So you can go in and listen to those calls at any time. And then last but not least, you want to follow up. I meet with my virtual assistants once every 2 weeks, and then make sure that there are no questions, there are no calls. There are no phone calls additionally that need to be had. And then just make sure you stay in communication, and you can see the profits in your real estate business significantly increase. Okay. So Jake Butler, if you haven't gotten a copy of my free book that I give to everyone that comes to my class, you can go to jakebutler.info. Had the pleasure of being a co-author with Kevin Harrington, one of the sharks from Shark Tank. So that was a great time meeting him and becoming one of the co-authors in a book that he was putting together. And on top of that, have patience, but make progress. Sometimes you got to be patient in these deals, and sometimes you got to progress. So do both. Have patience, but make progress. And I'll talk to you all next week. Take care.
You've been listening to the Patience and Progress audio experience. Tune in next time for another exciting episode where we'll be discussing entrepreneurship, how to create wealth, leaving a legacy, and how to become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to download your free copy of the best-selling book, Mind-Stirring Business Secrets, where Jake was a co-author with Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks from the hit television show Shark Tank. Visit www.jakebutler.info for your free copy.